आज अक्षिता आने वाली थी, कहाँ गई?
I'll ask her.
Suspicious that she's supposed to come. इसने लिखा है.
Akshita is coming, sir, in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Akshita. Good evening. How are you? Long time.
Yes, so I wasn't well.
You were well. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, chalo. So let's start. So you missed two classes, last two classes, I think, basically an integrated marketing
Mm.
communication thing. और I have to find out उसका recording YouTube में होगा मेरे ख्याल से. I'll just download it. Listen, you can also download it from there. Okay, so
Yes,
let
sir.
me share. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we started integrating marketing communication. I told you what are the different channels of marketing, कैसे हम लोग different channels of communication हम लोग कैसे communicate करते हैं above the line, below the line, online, publicity करते हैं, sales promotion करते हैं, all these were communication. Now we are going to talk about this communication process. Communication is the major part of marketing. No? आज के दिन में जितने भी marketeers काम करते हैं on different brands, after making the product, deciding on the price, the packaging, the brand name, and so on and so forth. I think one of the most critical things of whole marketing, as a job function, is how do you communicate to the consumers. Right? Because if the consumers are not aware of your product, if the consumers are not aware that you are there, your brand is there in the market, how are they going to buy it? Right? And your purpose is to make them buy the product. So you need to communicate. So what is that communication process here? Okay. So this is simple. This is what all we know, right? Communication process basically from a sender to a receiver. Okay. And sender's field of experience, receiver's field of experience, the source sender. So somebody who sends a message is called the source. Then it is encoded. There's a channel through which the encoded message passes. Okay. Then it is decoded by the receiver and the receiver gets it. So abhi main jo aapse baat kar raha hu, okay, whatever I am talking to you, I am the source. Okay, I'm trying to communicate with you and you are the receiver. And what is happening is I'm sending a communication, I'm talking to you, I'm giving you a message which is coded. Okay, which is coded. Until unless you receive and understand it is still coded. Okay, so I code the message. I'm speaking in English, I'm speaking in Hindi, so I'm coding the message. I'm sending it through a channel. What is the channel? Here the channel is basically our Zoom is the channel, right? Here I'm communicating to you through Zoom. Then you are getting the message, you are decoding it. Ki main English mein baat kar raha hu, or I'm talking in Hindi, you are decoding it, you are trying to understand it. If you can decode it properly, then only you will be able to understand it. Okay. Until you have understood it, the communication is not complete. So from the source to the receiver, the encoding and decoding of the message, basically you are sending a message and that is being understood by the receiver, by you, is the whole process. Okay, so that in that process there's something called the receiver receives the message, then it gives a response. Okay, until the response is again received back by the source or the person who is giving you a communication as a feedback, the communication is not complete. So this is the cycle: the source, the encoding, the channel of message, then decoding, then the receiver. The receiver gives a response. Until the receiver gives a response and he gets this feedback, the communication is not. If the receiver doesn't give a response, that means the receiver has not been able to decode the message. Correct? You understand this? And while you are sending a message from a source to a receiver, from me to Akshita or from me to Aditi, when there is a message, if this message goes clearly without any hindrance, without any barrier, then you get a clean message. If there are barriers, suppose what kind of barriers can there be? They are called noise. Okay, the noise can be the internet is not functioning properly, the bandwidth is not good, so you can't listen to me clearly. That can be a barrier. These barriers are called noises. Okay, there can be many other barriers. That while I am sending this message, Aditi and Akshita is thinking of something else. Even that's a barrier, because whenever she is thinking of something else, she will not listen to what I have said properly, and that's another noise. This is another barrier, right? Or possibly the language itself can be a barrier. If Aditi or Akshita doesn't understand English and I'm speaking in English, it can be a barrier. Even my tone can be a barrier. I am speaking such a low tone that you can't hear properly. That can be a barrier. So all these barriers are called noise. Correct? Got it? Any questions here?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Source encoding using a celebrity. Okay. So when you have a celebrity, so it's a celebrity. Usually we see that in our advertising, there are a lot of celebrities who come in. They are the source. They speak to you, right? And they speak to you, they send you some message. When they send you some message, they're actually encoding them. And it is very common in today's advertising world, right? Every company, every product, every brand is using a celebrity as a source, right? And encoding means sending a message, to send a message, right? Forms of encoding. forms of different kind of messages that we send. We say verbal messages. As I am talking to you, I'm sending verbal messages. Then I also send graphic messages, messages in images, right? Graphic way, images, pictures, musical messages. Sometimes some tunes are played, some messages are there, tunes, jingles and all, right? And of course, animations. Okay, a lot of animations are there across the messages that you see. Okay, animations are images that move. Correct. So different forms of encoding. Encoding is basically nothing but messages. Messages which are decoded, which are decoded to understand. Right. So unless you understand those messages, keep in an encoded form. Right. And so how does a message get developed? A message is developed through content. First and foremost thing, which has to be content. Right. So content can be in different forms. Can you tell me what can be different forms of content? जरा सोच के बताओ जल्दी से. जल्दी से सोच के बताओ. What can be different kind of content? Try it out.
Radio, TV, all of these, the things, advertisements, they are content.
Not really. Content एक मैसेज का कंटेंट होता है भाई, थ्रू टेक्स्ट होता है. हम टेक्स्ट लिखते हैं तो कंटेंट बनता है. Right. From images होता है, videos होता है, audios होता है. Right. So text, image, audios, videos. Okay, these are all contents. Without them, you can't make a content, right? If you see if you hear a content in a radio, that mostly has audio, right?
Yeah.
Or that has some form of text which is communicated to you through an audio, right? When you see a TV, there are text, there are images, there are videos, and there are audios. When you see a Facebook communication, there can be a text, there can be a video, there can be an audio. Okay, and there can be also some images. These are all contents, right? So text, images, audios, videos, these are all contents. And then when you develop a message, when you have to make that message, what do you mean by developing a message? You can't just put a bit of text and image and video and audio together and say that it is a message. It is supposed to be a meaningful message, right? So you have to give it a structure. The text has to be associated with the image has to be associated with the video has to be associated with the audio. Some structure banega, then only you will understand it, then only it will be meaningful. So content needs to be converted, given a structure, and then it has to be designed properly. Okay, so you can't say that I'm just putting any image and I'm putting any text and becomes a message. No. It has to be a relevant image, a relevant text, a relevant audio, a relevant video. So all together, you need to design it properly, correct, to give the right message to the receiver, correct? So an image can convey more than words. Do you agree with that? An image can actually convey more than words, right?
Yes.
Right. We have learned about this from our childhood. Okay, communication channels. Okay, so personal channels, word of mouth, personal selling, these are all channels. Non-personal channels, print media, broadcast media. Okay, so social media is what? A personal channel or a non-personal channel?
So it can be both actually.
It can be both actually. Right, it can be actually both. Okay, marketers embrace buzz marketing. What is buzz marketing? Marketing goes, as a buzz, it's a word of mouth, spreads very fast like fire.
Like so they are doing it. The Gehraiyaan movie, Amazon is actually promoting it everywhere. Like you're scrolling and there's a buzz.
Right. So buzz, there are plenty of buzzes going around in the whole message world, communication world today. People want to make things viral, and these viral come from buzz. Somebody likes something and he puts it on the social media has actually helped creating those buzzes. Okay. Or today the OTT channels. May not be the TV also. Even the OTT channel and the social media put together has created a lot of buzz around. They have made the messages go viral like fire, right? So that's what is buzz marketing. You like something, you put it in any social media, it spread like fire. That's buzz. Okay. So interesting messages, which creates interest in the community, in the audience. Okay, so much interest in the audience that the audience wants to spread it with everybody or to share it with everybody. What is buzz? Buzz is basically sharing, right? You're sharing with your friends, your families, your co-workers, your colleagues, everybody around the world, right? And that's creating that buzz. Now, when I talk about, suppose I talk about, I want to give an apple. I want to give apple for dinner. Is the message complete? Possibly not, right? I can just give an apple as a fruit. I can make a dessert out of the apple. I can make a tart out of the apple. I can make a pudding out of the apple. Whatever can go into the message in the dinner, right? So the message is not yet complete till I give it a form. Correct? Till I give it a form. Okay. So now the field of experience overlaps. When the sender and receivers are in a different world, communication is little challenging. Slowly, there are moderate commonalities. Senders and experience and receivers experience are somewhat similar. They're not completely similar, but they are somewhat similar. And finally, when there is high commonality, the sender and receiver's experiences are very, very close. They overlap with almost overlap with each other. And then you suddenly realize, array, this is my kind. Sometimes you say, you see an advertisement, you see a communication, and you say, this is my kind. Aha, this is my kind, right? That's when your experience and your sender's experience matches. Even if it's a celebrity. If he or she is sharing something which you feel, aha, this is my kind, that means you are sharing actually a commonality with that celebrity. Your experience and the sender's experience is common, has a lot of commonality. And this is actually the practical world. Sometimes your sender's experience and your experience is too far away. Okay, they are different world, and then it doesn't match your expectation. You say, "Arey yaar, wo to celebrity wala world hai. They do a lot of things. They show a lot of things." And at other times you say, "Oh yeah, this is a good product. I like it. I use it." Okay, even though it's Akshay Kumar or even though it's Madhuri Dixit, you still feel, oh yeah, this is the product which I like. Okay. Noise in communication process. Yes, as I said, there are plenty of noises around when a sender is communicating with the receiver or the audience. Okay, the noise can be, when somebody you're watching a TV and somebody cheers up, you have not been able to hear the advertisement properly. That's itself a noise. Okay, you're thinking about somebody else while there is a communication. That's a noise. Okay, your language of communication is a noise, often. Okay. So and so on and so forth. Successful communications, select an appropriate source. So appropriate source in the sense, if you're selecting a celebrity or you're selecting a non-celebrity, it has to be an appropriate source. What is an appropriate source? We'll come to it. Develop a properly encoded message. So
Sir, you are not audible. The mic is on mute.
Yes, exactly.
I've been.
सबसे audible नहीं है.
I thought कि मुझे मेरे में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है.
Connection issue हो रहा है.
I know अक्षिता का बहुत सारा
I
connection
thought
issues हो रहा
network
है.
issues.
Could you hear me when I said about Ida?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, this one.
No.
No,
Oh my.
not even.
कब से?
This
Could you
one. Yeah,
hear
you
me
are on
when?
this one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fine. ठीक है, ठीक है. Okay, so we spoke about target audience, right? You know by now you know what is a target audience, right? We divide the whole audience, our customers, into different groups depending on their demographics, psychographic, geographic and behaviors, right? And then once we divide them into different groups, there's possibly one group whose choice and preference matches our offerings. That's the target audience, right? That's what we spoke about. That's what the target audience are. Target audience have the need of my product. Target audience have the need of my product. I can make my product available to them. They can afford my product, and their choices and preference matches my offerings, right? So we need to find that target audience properly, because if a total set of customer have 5 target audience for me, to every target audience, one need or one set of preference, one set of problem area is being satisfied through my product. Okay, there can be 5 different target audiences whose 5 different needs can be satisfied through my single product, right? And can I communicate the same way with all of them? Possibly not. Right? I will communicate differently with all the five target audience, right? Because they have different needs. Right, they have different demographics. Their age is possibly different. Their income group is possibly different. Their marital status is possibly different. Their gender is possibly different. Their habits, hobbies, interests are possibly different. They come from different geographies where the languages are different. So we cannot communicate in a similar way to all the target audience. Right? So identifying that target audience is very, very important, from the mass market to the niche market to the individual group and audience. For every individual group and audience, we need to communicate separately. Correct? Okay, understood? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now,
yes, sir.
There is a response process. There's a response process by every consumer, every customer. And there are 4 models to understand for this response process. And it goes through 3 different stages: the cognitive stage, the affective stage, and the behavioral stage. What is cognitive stage? Cognitive stage is हमारे दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है. Okay, cognitive stage is हमारे दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है. What is the affective state? How does it affect me? Okay, how does it affect me? And finally, the behavioral stage: how do I behave after I have understood the process, after I have understood the communication? So there are 4 models. One is called IDA model, which is the very simple purchase model. You have an attention first. I create an attention in you about my product. Okay, then I create an interest in you about my product by talking about my advantages and benefits of my product. And this converts into a desire for you. You start desiring that product because I have explained to you the right advantages and benefits of the product. And finally, when you have the desire for the product, you get into action, that is purchasing. Right? So this is the most simple model in the world. Okay, Earth, IDA model of purchase.
So there's a question.
Yes, Gaurav.
Sorry. So when you're actually implementing IDA model and you have to go through the pricing stage as well. So प्राइसिंग स्टेज को आपको अपनी प्राइस डिस्क्लोज करनी है बाद में. आपने पहले अपने प्रोडक्ट की प्राइसिंग नहीं डिस्क्लोज की है, उसका मतलब आप क्यों कस्टमाइज प्रोडक्ट्स हैं और आपको प्राइसिंग डालनी है, तो वेयर डज इट फॉल्स प्राइसिंग बिटवीन द AIDA?
प्राइसिंग यहाँ पर आएगा ही नहीं आपका. यहाँ पर तो आप क्या कर रहे हो? आप प्राइसिंग किसी भी स्टेज में आप बता सकते हो. And only thing is that the consumer or the customer has to take it as value for money. अगर आपका प्राइस सही नहीं होगा, he will not buy. If he doesn't feel that your price is worth the product, he will not buy, right? So आप कहीं भी डिस्कस करो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. ठीक है, आप पहले ही बोलो कि I am selling this product for 10 rupees. Fine, no problem. Then you create an interest. Then you start telling him that in 10 rupees, what are you getting? You're getting a beautiful product with a nice color and nice taste and whatever. Then only he will understand this product is worth that 10. Then he will have that desire. Yeah, oh, it looks good. It's value for money. Let me buy it. Then he gets into action. Okay. और आप पूरा attention interest create कर दिया आपने product के बारे में बताया. It's a beautiful rose with a beautiful color coming from this country, natural, etc. etc. This आपने उसका interest create कर दिया. Then you talk about this only comes for ₹10. So you can introduce the price at any point of time during it, depending on how well you have communicated the advantages and benefits, the features, advantages and benefits.
Also, so there's this follow-up question. You were telling about cognitive approach as well. So I was actually reading regarding cognitive biases. There are different kind of cognitive bias. So
Yes.
is it included in the cognitive wala section only?
Yeah. Cognitive is anything आपके दिमाग में जो भी चल रहा है. What is cognitive? What is bias?
जैसे while I was having this conversation, the other person told me कि ऐसे Aditi always is very presentable. But there are days when I'm not that good. तो वो bias हो जाएगा because I'm not
Yes.
fulfilling
Yes.
मेरे दिमाग पे जो आ रहा है वो वाला कि उसको देखोगे तो
Right.
वैसे रहेगी.
आपका दिमाग का जो bias है, it's all about cognitive bias too. If somebody has told you, "Arey, go to see this movie. It's a beautiful movie." आपके दिमाग में वो ना bias ही चलेगा कि this person has told me that it's a beautiful movie. Why do you sometimes trust, advertisement when great celebrities come and talk about it? Because you are biased. दिमाग में आपका bias हो जाता है कि Aishwarya Rai is coming and talk about Lux soap. It must be a great product. That's what is cognitive bias. It's very strong. आपके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है? What is predominant in your brain?
It affects the decision making as well, right?
It affects the decision making, absolutely. Purchase decision, behavior. Correct. आप ये इस स्टेज से नेक्स्ट कोई स्टेज पे जाओगे ही नहीं. आप स्ट्रेट अवे इस स्टेज से यहाँ पर आ जाओ. आपके दिमाग में इतना ज्यादा बायस हो गया कि आप स्ट्रेट अवे जाके उसको खरीदो. You get into action, not even think about interest and desire. सब कुछ यहीं पर हो गया आपका when you have a cognitive bias. Correct.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Then comes the hierarchy of effect model. This is basically worth when you are making an advertisement. Okay, you're first creating an awareness, along with that giving a knowledge to that person about the product or the brand. Okay, and this is in the cognitive stage. आपके दिमाग में काम कर रहा है. Your awareness is in your head, in your brain. Your knowledge is in your brain, and then you start liking. You start liking the product. You start preferring the product, and finally you are convinced about it. This is your effective stage. This is the effect of your continuous being exposed to an advertisement. This becomes your effect. This is the effective stage, your liking, preference, and conviction. And finally, what happens is because you have a conviction that this is a great product, you go and buy the product. So that's the behavioral stage. That's your behavior that you show, right? That's the behavior that you expose. Okay. Innovation adoption model. Okay, this is particularly when you are introducing a new product. You first make people aware of it. This is the cognitive stage, awareness stage, then interest stage. And then once you have created the interest, when it's a new product, a consumer, what they will do is they will also evaluate. How do they evaluate? They start gathering information from different sources, right? Different sources. Suppose I have introduced a new kind of a washing machine or a new kind of a vacuum cleaner. Okay. You have come to be aware of the product through advertisement or even through any kind of communication. I'm making you aware. I've created an interest in you because I've told you that it's a great product with great advantages, great benefits. However, still now you have not got into trial because you want to still evaluate it. How do you evaluate? You gather information, or you gather information and you also take some, trials before you want to use it finally. Right. So a demonstration later, you want to evaluate, to tell the guy, come and give a demo at my home. So you want to evaluate it, right? And then you try the product while they are demonstrating it, and finally you adopt to it. You buy it, right? You adopt to it, buy it and adopt to it. Correct. Information processing model, basically how your brain processes the information. Okay, this is particularly when you are doing a personal selling. Also, when you are sharing some advertising which is very high on information. Okay, so you are doing a presentation, particularly when B2B sales, you are doing a presentation, created an attention. People have understood it. They have comprehended what you want to say. Okay, until here, everything is in your brain. You are trying to manipulate the brain. You have presented it very well. You have created an attention in them. They have started understanding your product and brand, and finally, it has affected them. It has yielded. What does it mean? It has yielded means they have started accepting it. The customer has started accepting it, right? And there's a retention. They have started recalling the brand. They have started recalling the product. Your brain has kept it in it there, retained it there. Every time you remember, talk about the product, you recall the brand, you recall the product. Okay, and finally, what you do is you change your behavior. Okay, so your information that if you're processing that information properly, you finally changes your behavior. Correct? Behavior of either you buy the product or you don't buy the product. Okay, and if it is positive, then of course you go and buy the product. Correct. Obtaining feedbacks. Okay, so for different kinds of feedbacks. Okay, so what do you do? So particularly when you in a persuasion process, when you create an exposure and presentation, how do you want to see whether it is effective, whether your presentation is effective, whether your exposure, whether your information is effective? The more you reach it, आप जितना ज़्यादा reach करोगे, उसमें जो effectiveness आएगा. From there you start understanding that whether my presentation was right, whether my pitch is right. हम लोग बोलते हैं ना sales pitch. अब एक बंदे को sales pitch दे रहे हो, he or she has said no to you. That doesn't mean that your sales pitch is bad, your presentation is bad. The more you circulate it, the more you go and communicate it, and the more and more results you get, that is the test of your effectiveness, of your presentation or your communication. Attention. Have you created attention? The listener, reader, viewer, recognition. Okay. So, पूरा जो process है हमारा information the process. Think about this process. Information processing model. How do I get feedback of it? Okay. Attention, when you have created attention, the listener, the reader, the viewer will recognize that yes, you have created attention. Comprehension, whether the customer has understood it. You do a test of recall. You do a test of checklist with them. Okay. Then you will understand whether they could understand the product or they could understand your communication. Whether their message is accepted and it has yielded. Okay, the attitude towards the brand, the purchase intent, this will be the effective test of this. Okay, retention, recall over time. If a person recalls your brand or your product after a long time, then your retention is very effective. And finally, purchase behavior, the inventory, the point of purchase, scanner, data. Through this you can actually check the effectiveness of your purchase behavior of the customer. Whether your inventory is going up, the inventory is going down, of course sales are happening. Point of purchase, that is basically जहाँ पर checkout होता है. Okay, you can get information from there. How is the sales going on? Scanner data. Okay, you can see scanners in every mall nowadays, every supermarkets nowadays. The data from the scanner will tell you whether the purchase is happening or not. Right. So obtaining feedback is important. These are the ways you can obtain feedback. Okay. Alternative response hierarchies. Okay. This is very interesting. Okay. Now, whether there's an involvement with the product or high involvement with the product or a low involvement with the product. Okay. So, and the response that you get out of it is very important to understand. Okay. Now, when there is a high topical involvement means involvement between you and the product. Okay. Perceived product differentiation if it is high and the topical involvement is high, the learning model is the same one which we thought about: cognitive, affective, and connective. Okay, connective is basically the action. Okay, so you learn, you do, and you feel. Correct? Okay, so cognitive is learning. Okay, affective is sorry, cognitive is learning, affective is feeling, and then cognitive is doing. Okay, so you learn, you feel, and then you do. When the involvement is very high and the product differentiation is very high. When two different products, absolutely different product, the customer's involvement in the purchase process is very high. Okay. When the product differentiation is low and the customer's involvement is very high, you first do, then feel, and then you learn. You first do. Okay, what does it mean? That you possibly try the product. It gives you conviction. And that helps you learn about the product. Okay, what is dissonance? Dissonance is disparity. Okay, it gives you a conviction that no, whatever I did was right. And that's why in this particular way, in this particular, area where the, product differentiation is low and customers' involvement is very high, advertisement works very well. If you show advertisement continuously to that person, at one point of time, the person will believe that no, I have taken the right decision. Because he has first used the product, he used the product, he did from do to feel to learn. What did he do? He used the product, he tried the product, then he felt about the product, and then he learned about the product. And finally, when you are reiterating him through advertisement, he's convinced that no, I have taken a right decision. The other way is low involvement, and when there is a low differentiation in product and low difference, the first thing that you do is you learn, then you do, and then you feel. Basically, sometimes when you ask for tell me low involvement products like a soap or a water. Okay, you know that this soap is good. You have learned it from your friends, your families, or somebody else, right? Then you go and try the product. You do. You use the product. Okay, and then basically you start feeling, oh yeah, it's a good product. Okay, so low involvement products, basically anything which is generally used. You do not think much about buying such products. Okay. You basically learn from people, learn from your surrounding, learn from your different communications from your friend, family, advertising, wherever. However, you go and use the product and then you learn, no, it's a good product. Okay. You do not think much. However, on the other side, when the product is very high in differentiation and your involvement is very high, that's the time you first learn about it. Okay, you feel about it, you get convinced about it by evaluating it and all that. And then finally you go and buy it. Correct. And this happens with you also. Just think about any high involvement product that you have bought recently. When you buy a mobile phone, okay, you learn about the product a lot. You get convinced only when you have evaluated the product, and finally then you go and buy it. Right? It's a high involvement product, high differentiation product. That's right. Okay. And then when you have a low differentiation product, but however a very high involvement product, you first try the product. Then you feel it's okay, and then you have learned. You try the product, and then you see advertisement or somebody else comes and tells you that I have also used it, it's a good product. Then the disparity in your mind goes off. You start feeling, no, I've taken the right decision. But because your involvement was very high, but the differentiation is so low that you are really confused what to do. Correct? Got it? Aditi, Akshita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Got it? Understood about this?
Yes.
So what do you need to do about a low involvement product and a high involvement product? First of all, did you understand what's a high involvement product is and what's a low involvement product is, what's a high differentiation product is and what's a low differentiation product is?
Yes, sir.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so dissonance attribution model. That's what I was saying. Dissonance is basically disparity. Okay, so what do? What do you do in these kind of things? As I said, when there's a dissonance, when there's a disparity, you do not understand what to do because the differentiation is so low between one product and the other. Okay, you are really confused. आप उस टाइम क्या करते हो? इस टाइम suppose something like a Visa card or a MasterCard. The difference is so low that you are confused what to do. So what do there? You actually use it. Okay. Cognitive is basically doing. You actually start using it. And then you feel that I have taken a right decision. And from there you learn about it. Okay. And then others come and tell you, yes, we have also used it, then you get convinced about it. So that's a dissonance. And if you have any kind of a small little doubt about whether I'm doing the right thing or not, the first thing is basically you start using it yourself. Okay. Low involvement product. So as I said, low involvement as battery kharid rahe. It's a very low involvement product. Okay. What do you do in a low involvement product? You start learning about the product, right? हम लोग क्या करते हैं? Cognitive stage में क्या करते हैं? You get aware about it. Okay, right? And then what do? We use the product. When थोड़ा बहुत aware हो गया, we use the product, and finally we come to know whether it's a good or a bad product. Right?
So there's a question.
Yes, tell me.
The product that are placed at a low price, are they usually low involvement products? Like Matchstick or
वहाँ पर ज़्यादा क्यों नहीं सोचते पता है? Usually you are right. Why do you say low involvement product? The risk is less. आप ₹1 का एक मैच बॉक्स खरीद रहे हो, आपके लिए रिस्क क्या है? ₹1 है ना?
Yeah.
बट 10 लाख रुपए की गाड़ी खरीद रहे हो, आपके लिए रिस्क क्या है? 10 लाख रुपए. The value is very high. So there is a risk involved. So the more the risk involved, the more involved you are. Right?
So we can say that low price products are usually low involvement products.
Yes, and also no. Think about a food product. As think about you are buying मिठाई खरीद रहे हो. ₹2 की मिठाई भी होगी, so you would always like to go to a good shop and buy that ₹2, right? Because you feel that छोटे दुकान में वो खराब भी हो सकते हैं, stale भी हो सकते हैं.
Yeah.
Right? So their involvement is very high because your health is important. Correct. So it's not always that price is the factor which decides whether it's low involvement or high involvement. It's basically how does it affect you? How in affective stage में आप वहाँ आपको affect कैसे कर रहा है? Either वो आपका पैसे पे affect कर रहा है, आपके health पे affect कर रहा है, आपके benefits पे, आपके security पे affect कर रहा है, आपका safety पे affect कर रहा है.
It matters what's at stake.
Yeah, what is at stake? Correct. What is at stake?
Okay, sir.
आज एक मैचस्टिक जलेगा नहीं तो उतना आपको कुछ इफेक्ट नहीं करना है.
Yeah.
Right? लेकिन if you get cheated with your bank funds because of your bad, credit system, then it's going to affect you a lot, right? So आपका stake कहाँ पर कितना ज्यादा है? That is what involvement is. Correct. Okay. Okay, so again, coming to the same thing, thinking and feeling. Okay, low involvement and high involvement. Okay, so when it's a high involvement product, okay, and between thinking and feeling, thinking is what? Cognitive, हम दिमाग से सोचते हैं, right? And feeling is basically affective. How is it affecting, right? So it's informative and it's the thinker. The two is when it's high involvement and you're feeling, it's a feeler. It's low involvement and you are thinking you are a doer, you will do, right? Cognitive. हम लोग ने एक word पढ़ा था ना, cognitive. Okay. And low involvement and you have a feeling, you will feel about, you're feeling about you are a reactor. Why you are a reactor? Because you will, you know, आप उसको खरीदने के बाद रिएक्ट करते, ठीक है? This stage. This stage. राइट, आपका लो इन्वॉल्वमेंट था, ठीक है, आप रिएक्ट कर रहे थे उसको, ठीक है, आपने खरीदा था, देन यू रिएक्ट वेदर इट्स गुड और बैड. सो 1 2 3 and 4. Okay, developing promotional strategies, add options based on FCB grid. Okay, rational versus emotional appeal, rational versus emotional appeal, increasing involvement levels, evaluation of a think type product on basis of feelings. Okay, so basically कौन सा प्रोडक्ट में रैशनल है या इमोशनल अपील है, कौन सा प्रोडक्ट नहीं, कौन सा कम्युनिकेशन में रैशनल अपील है और इमोशनल अपील है, इसमें इन्वॉल्वमेंट ज्यादा है, एंड where do you need to think more than rather than feel more. And these are the three things on basis of which you actually create promotional strategies. When you have when you need to communicate rationally, okay, you do not want to, rationally means what? You give a lot of information. People want to buy it with a lot of information there. You do not communicate emotionally. When you have a lot of there are products which you have a lot of emotion involvement, then you know how to involve customers. So your promotion strategy will be how to, by involving customers. So possibly a sales promotion, 1:1 interaction with them, okay, personally selling to them and so on and so forth, personally communicating to them and so on and so forth, because there's a lot of involvement. Showing a demo to them, and buying a washing machine, buying a dishwasher, buying a vacuum cleaner. These are very, very high on involvement. So you need to be there, right? You need to involve the customer there. And evaluation of a think type product on the basis of feeling. Okay. Think type product is when people think a lot about it. They evaluate a lot about these products. Okay. Then on these basis, the promotional strategies are created. LG connects with consumer emotions. Okay, so why does LG connect with consumer emotions? Because they feel that their product is a high involvement product where people should be connected with that product. So let them be emotionally dealt with. Okay. Cognitive response and method of examining consumer cognitive processing, consumers' cognitive processing of advertising message by looking at their cognitive response to hearing, viewing, or reading communication. Okay. Then what? Examines thoughts that are evoked by an advertising message. Finally, consumers write down or verbally report their reactions to a message. Okay. So when you are thinking about how consumers think, how they use their brain, so what you do is, this response, what you do is you start understanding how the consumer processes the advertising message by hearing, viewing, or reading about the message. Okay, his response. How kabhi if you look at a message, what's your reaction about that message? When you hear about this message, when you view this message, when you are reading about this message, what's your reaction? How do you react? Okay. What are your thoughts that are coming there? And finally, if you have to write down those, reactions, how will you write down those? That's how you measure cognitive responses. You ask the consumers to finally write down the reactions. And reactions come from where? Your thoughts. And thoughts come from where? Your responses. By hearing or viewing or reading any message, right? So first you respond, then you think about it, and finally you are allowed to write those reactions. That's how your responses are recorded. Okay. Model of cognitive response. So beautifully made up. Exposure to the advertising, you get exposed to it. Think about yourself now. Place yourself in this situation. Okay. Product message thoughts. source-oriented thoughts, ad execution thoughts. Okay, cognitive response, product message thought. You are only given messages about the product. Source-oriented thought, source is basically somebody who communicates. So suppose a celebrity is communicating a thought. Okay, so there'll be a different response to that, right? Other than when some only product ka message diya ja raha, the thought process will be different. Ad execution thought. Okay, so kabhi ads are so beautiful that you think about the ad more rather than the product and the celebrity or the source. Does it happen sometimes with you guys? Ads are so beautiful that you forget about the product. Actually.
Yes,
sir, a lot of
it
times.
happens.
Lot of them.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's a reality, and that's where you can place yourself here. जब इस तीन चीज़ अगर मैं अपने आप को place करूँगा, sometimes you get advertisements, press, I mean, newspaper or radio or TV or hoarding, कहीं भी advertisement देखते हो, only message about the product और कुछ नहीं हुआ. Not even a celebrity, not even a person, कुछ नहीं. खाली product का messages. Very strong message, information oriented. और कभी-कभी होता है क्या? A celebrity is talking about it, or even a non-celebrity talking about it, a doctor is talking about it, a chef is talking about it, and it's more about your attention, your whole thinking is towards that person who's talking.
Like Sensodyne.
Like Sensodyne, yes. आप खाली वही सोचते रहते हो वहाँ. Correct. And finally, some of them are ad execution. Ad इतना अच्छा बना है कि आप उसी के पीछे सोचते भूल गए क्या product. बहुत सारे टाइम में होता है, and I feel it's very weird, 15 seconds, 30 seconds का ad चला, by the end of 30 seconds I forgot ये ad किस product का था. It's so beautiful. There sometimes I see a girl doing a ballet dancing, such a beautiful ballet, skate ballet dancing she's doing. मैं 30 seconds से वो ballet dancing देखा, भूल ही गया कि वो product कौन सा था. Something like that. Then attitude, brand attitudes. Okay, product message and source message, they convert themselves to the attitudes. Okay, brand attitude towards advertisement. And sometimes the source इतना strong होता है, ठीक है, अमिताभ बच्चन बोल रहा है, या तो the advertisement is so strong, your attitude towards the advertisement is changing. Okay, and finally purchase intent. दोनों से आपको purchase intent होता है depending on how it changes your attitude. If the brand changes if the brand attitude changes, then your purchase intention is actually much more. If you like the advertisement, sometimes it also tends to, change your purchase intention. Okay, and this is actually a very, very beautiful chart, which, very clearly you can place yourself in any one of the cognitive response process. Okay. Cognitive response categories. Okay, product message thoughts. Counter arguments, support arguments. Source-oriented thoughts, source derogations, source bolster. Ad execution thoughts, thoughts about the ad itself, affect attitude towards the ad. As I said, either the product is too strong to support the argument, or you counter whatever, either of them. Your source is too strong. Okay. You are actually supporting the source, you liking the source, you are following the source, or otherwise you have a source derogation. You do not like the source. You're actually pissed off with the source. Okay, with the communicator. Okay, and that's very, very, those are very, very bad advertising when you are pissed off with the source, actually, the communicator. Okay. And sometimes it also happens, when the source, suppose, think about an advertisement by possibly, any celebrity who has lost his credibility in the market. Okay, so suppose when you are having an advertisement by Byju's advertisement by Shah Rukh Khan. Okay, and you suddenly find one fine morning his son is a drug addict and he's being taken to jail. Shah Rukh Khan's credibility is less lost. You don't want to see any Shah Rukh Khan's ad with Byju's, right? So that's what source derogation. Okay, and finally, ad execution thoughts. Okay, thoughts about the ad itself. It was so good an ad. it affect the attitude towards that. Okay. Either it can be too good or too bad. ये क्या गंदा ad बनाया है यार, कभी-कभी हम बोलते हैं, दिल से निकल के आता है, कितना गंदा ad बनाया है. Forget about the product, right? Okay, I will not take you through this. So, celebrity endorses can be peripheral cues. Okay, so basically, when there are celebrities who endorse a product, okay, they can be peripheral cues. Peripheral cues are basically they are very strong cues for you to buy the product. And that's why celebrities are brought in when you actually you want to introduce a new product and you have money. Celebrities are actually there to support a product's, to support a product's image actually. So they are peripheral cues. Images are peripheral. So that's where you say that it changes the attitude towards it. Okay, because that image perception about that image is changing because of your persuasion through that celebrity. Okay, and that's called peripheral cues. The attractive and highly relevant celebrity endorses and visual imagery serves as peripheral cues and helps consumers from a positive attitude towards it. So anytime a good celebrity comes in and talks about a brand, right, it changes the attitude towards the brand, creates a positive attitude towards it, and that's called the peripheral cue. Okay, got it? Finally, how advertisement works. This is the most important thing of this whole presentation. Advertising input, message, content, media scheduling, and reputation. Okay. आपका message का content कितना strong है? Your media scheduling, that is, when will your advertisement be shown in the TV, or it will be there in the audio, in the radio, when it will come in the newspaper, the scheduling, and finally, how many times you are repeating. This all put together are your advertising inputs. And then there are filters, motivations, and ability involved. How does it motivate? What is the ability of that advertisement to convert a consumer? And finally, consumers' cognition, effect, and experience. That is behavior. Right? Cognition is thinking, effect is their liking, preference, and so on and so forth. And experience is their behavior, choice, consumption, lab. Where are you? You have purchased the product. Are you a regular purchaser? Are you a loyal purchaser? Have you created the habit? Are you advocating the product? Those are behaviors, right? हम लोग ने segmentation and behavior पढ़ा था ना? Consumer behaviors basically starting from awareness to interest to consideration to trial and so on and so forth, right? So advertising changes behaviors from awareness to advocacy. Correct? So this is the whole communication process in action. The content and the media and the reputation, the filter, the motivation and the ability to make consumers involved, and finally consumers thinking, their liking preferences and their views. Okay.
So there's
Yes.
this very basic question.
Yes.
So is advertisement only the source of effective communication?
Advertisement, come again. Come again.
Is advertisement the only effective source of communication?
Not really. Not really. Not really. हम लोग ने कितने source of communication पढ़ा है? बोलो. Advertisement is one of them. Advertisement is one of them, right? There are publicity, there are public relations, there are news articles, there are blogs, there are newsletters, there are so many things, right? There are sales promotion. Depends on what kind of a communication you are. Sometimes advertisements are so bad that they are not at all effective. Some problems, right? And on the other hand, sometimes emails are so good that they are very effective. So whichever communication tools gives you that conversion. First of all, finds you that lead and then gives you that conversion, that purchase is the most effective, right? So it can be any of either of them. Sometimes your publicity is very strong. Sometimes your PR is public relationship in the media is very strong. Sometimes your emailers are strong. Sometimes your social media communications are very strong. ठीक है, कुछ कंपनी तो ऐसे भी हैं जो एडवर्टाइज करते ही नहीं है. I think about Apple. Apple as a company till 5 years back or even 3 years back, they never advertised.
And Apple doesn't have a face. Like no one
Okay.
holds an apple and comes.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So Apple doesn't advertise. Or Apple as a company never advertised. Their distributors or their media intermediaries, they came and advertised on behalf of Reliance ने किया, Vodafone ने किया, Airtel ने किया, लेकिन Apple खुद जाके पैसा नहीं कर सकते advertise. They only believed in their product. They made a differentiation in the product. And that was good enough for them to communicate in the market. And that was possibly most effective for them. At the same time, Samsung advertises throughout the year. Sare communication channels with Samsung advertises. Correct. Okay, I think Akshita is badly facing some. Okay, take a 5 minutes break or maybe 10 minutes break and then come back. We'll get into the next one. Aditya, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Okay, chal. Let us start. Okay. Now we have understood what's the source, what's the message, and what's the channel, right? So now we'll get into a little deeper of it and start understanding. Now this is called a persuasion matrix. This is the matrix where advertisers actually use different independent variables and dependent variables to design their advertisement. Okay, something like you can see here that the receiver is 1, channel is 2, 3, message is 3, and source is 4. So what does it mean? That source which creates attention, which is attention is the dependent variable. Okay, source is the independent variable. So why is it independent variable? Because attention doesn't depend on it depends on the source. Source doesn't depend on attention, right? So that's why source is an independent variable, attention is a dependent variable. Because attention depends on the source. How good is the source? Is it a celebrity? Is he a great personality? That's where the attention comes, right? So attention is the dependent variable, source is the independent. And here, 4 is given to this, 4 as a number is given to this particular independent variable source because that's the strongest independent variable among all the independent variables that will create the advertisement. Okay, so here source is in this particular communication persuasion matrix, source is the most important of all of them. Message, channel, receiver, destination. Source is the most important. Receiver is the least important. Okay, channel is the second most important, and message is the third most important. And each of them has an effect on the dependent variables. So a source has an effect on the attention of the consumers or the audience. Okay, message has an effect on the yielding. Basically, what is the yield? What is the effect of this communication? Channel has your message presentation, how you present the message, and receiver is the person who actually comprehends, who actually gathers the message, okay, or understands the message. Okay, now as this is promotional planning, how does it work? The receiver comprehension. Can the receiver comprehend the advertisement, understand the advertisement? Channel is presentation, as we saw. Which media will increase the presentation, whether it's TV or a newspaper or a radio or a sales promotion, which will increase the presentation. Third is message yielding. What type of message will create favorable attitudes? Okay, what will be the yield from that particular message? Okay, how effective will be that message? Okay, and finally, source attention. Who will be that effective in getting consumers' attention? Whether it be Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan or Akshay Kumar, who will be the most important source? So all of them, all the 4 are important while you're planning a promotion. Okay, so these are called the promotion elements. Okay, so direct source. There are 2 kinds of source: a direct source and indirect source. Direct source himself or herself speaks, talks about the product, talks about the attributes of the product, and so on and so forth. The indirect source is used basically to enhance the advertisement. He or she decorate the advertisement. Okay, as he or she may not communicate anything, but he or she decorates the advertisement, enhances the advertisement. So a direct source usually speaks, endorses the product. An indirect source doesn't do that. It just enhances or decorates the product. Source attributes and receivers processing model. So what are the different attributes that you need to look at when you're looking at a source? First thing is credibility. Okay, of course, if you talk about the credibility of Amitabh Bachchan, there's no doubt about it. That's why every company would always prefer to have Amitabh Bachchan as the source or as the model in their advertisement and ambassador of their product, right? Attractiveness, of course, attractive to hona chahiye. And the power of that person to have a negative or a positive effect on the person.
Influence.
Okay. Influence, right? So compliance, whether that person himself complies with the, with the product or the message. Okay. It's credibility, internalization, processes internalization. The consumer, the audience will internalize because that person is a credible, right? Attractiveness is identification, process is identification. The audience will identify that person with attractiveness, right? Identify that product with the attractiveness of that source, right? Correct. What does post credibility mean? The source should be ethical, the person should be ethical, the person who is communicating should be ethical, trustworthy, experienced, unbiased, honest, believable, skillful, knowledgeable. Think about all the people you have seen as brand ambassadors. They would either have all of them or at least few of them.
So it sounds like a candidate for elections.
Yeah, of course. But election candidates are just opposite person.
Yeah, but they have to not have a case in their name and they should be mentally. Oh, we have studied that in civics, right? But they don't actually do.
Right. हाँ, तो उनका credibility तो होना ही चाहिए because they are standing in election and they are asking for votes. So people must trust them. They should be ethical and so.
Even
on
they
and
are
so
a
forth.
source only, right? For the party.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Sure. They are the source only. They are the source only. They are ambassadors of the party. Expert lends authority to an appeal. Now, what does it mean? थोड़ी देर पहले हम लोग Sensodyne की बात कर रहे थे. So a doctor, a chef, and others, they lend authority to the appeal. एक advertisement अगर एक doctor आके एक product के बारे में बोलता है, it lends an authority to the product. एक chef आके
Like
कोई food के बारे में, हाँ,
Sanjeev Kapoor, he actually अभी कोई
Sanjeev
एक
Kapoor.
नमक था.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
namak he was actually showing.
Right. Sanjeev Kapoor coming and talking about a product, food product particularly, that's a lot of authority. Right? Sensodyne हो गया, Dove हो गया, Colgate हो गया, सबको ही आजकल डॉक्टर को लेके आ रहा है. ठीक है. आज अल्ट्राटेक सीमेंट इंजीनियर को लेके आ रहा है. ठीक है. So all of them expert lends an authority, right? Corporate leaders as spokespeople. આજકલ when I am driving, I'm hearing an advertisement of some sort of a plywood which will not burn, which will not catch fire, and
Wow.
the ठीक है. So some Century Ply या कोई वो बना रहा है, and they are going and interviewing the proprietor of the company. Century Ply का proprietor and asking them how is it possible, and he's giving some explanation. So obviously that when the proprietor or the corporate leader is talking about his own product, it becomes more credible, right?
Yeah.
So corporate leaders are spokespeople. These are also seen. Limitations of credible source: high and low credibility sources, equally effective when arguing for a position opposing their own best interest. Yeah. So remember, sometimes high credible sources are always effective. Even low credible sources are effective. We never knew that. And they have a sleeper effect. What a sleeper effect is? Sleeper effect, initially you feel as it's rubbish, लेकिन जितनी बार आप देखते जाते हैं ना, धीरे-धीरे वो आपके दिमाग में बैठते जाते हैं.
It settles in.
It settles in your mind. I will give you a few examples. Actually. Wait a minute. I got them somewhere here. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah. बोलो.
I was actually reading and basically viewing this thing. So no cost marketing की बात हो रही थी. So there was this one thing
Right.
कि a young entrepreneur with a startup idea, college का था वो इंसान. He had to actually, उसके बहुत सारे ventures हो गए हैं दिल्ली में. So while he was talking about, he did this thing कि he used to sell teas, different kind of teas.
Right.
So उसने, क्योंकि स्टार्टिंग में तो आप एनी डे इतनी भीड़ नहीं आ सकती है. So the
Right.
only hostel people, he started giving it like for free. ठीक है, उनको जो घर आते हैं. And वो भीड़ देख के a lot of people started coming. क्योंकि फेकी चाय तो every hostel वाला kid wants to have. So is it actually possible?
Possible. Sometimes this is a typical crowd pulling sort of behavior. ठीक है, कहीं पर एक crowd कैसे भी खड़ा कर दो आप, out of 100 people 10 will always be there to go and look at what is happening in the crowd, and they get affected, their attitude, their behavior changes. So this is a crowd behavior. Sometimes this helps sometimes, but it's a very, very temporary short-term strategy. Crowd behavior is always a very, very short-term strategy. आप इसको long-term effect नहीं दे सकते. long term
And this
goals
is only
अगर
like
रहेगा तो
creating
it
a
doesn't
buzz,
work.
right?
Yeah, creating a buzz for a very short time. ठीक है, ज्यादा देर के लिए एक बंदा, if it's not a great product, ultimately product is the king, right? Product अगर सही नहीं है, आप कुछ देर के लिए उसका buzz create कर सकते हो, उसके बाद it will fade out.
Yeah.
है? So okay, coming back to the sleeper effect, a बहुत beautiful. I read a lot about sleeper effect, but this is one thing which has come up to me new. Social media applicants and act as a platform for propagation of untruth. आजकल बहुत सारे viral होते हैं, देखना, untruth propagandas social media. Initially आप जब देखते हो ना, बोलते हैं अरे यार ये rubbish है, लेकिन ये जब viral हो गया, बार-बार घूम फिर के आपके पास आ रहा है, एक टाइम पे देखना, एक टाइम के बाद आपको लगेगा नहीं, it's the truth. इतनी बार जब आ रहा है, that's called sleeper effect. You know, कभी-कभी जब हम इसकी बात करते हैं, credible source की बात करते हैं, कभी-कभी हम जब credible बोलते हैं, आज अमिताभ बच्चन कुछ बोल रहा है, आप इजीली मानोगे, ठीक है? At the same time कोई एरा गैरा आके कुछ बोल रहा है, आप मानोगे नहीं, इनिशियली नहीं मानोगे, but if it's repeated continuously, एक टाइम ऐसा आएगा ना, that will have an effect on your cognitive brain. आप सोचने शुरू करोगे, यार इसमें कुछ तो है, बंदा इतना बोल रहा है, people are listening to him, कुछ तो है.
Like भूत वाली कहानियां for a kid.
Exactly. Okay, that has a persuasive effect, and that sometimes it looks very weird. फिर भी हम लोग ना sometimes incredible source को मान जाते हैं, incredible source को मान जाते हैं. Okay, and particularly this more and more happens when you move more and more towards rural. आजकल फिर भी urban consumers ना, they are quite evaluative, they evaluate a lot. आप और मैं बहुत कुछ जब करेंगे उसके पहले बहुत evaluate करेंगे, but rural consumers still are not that, they do not evaluate much. ठीक है? So for them this kind of a incredible source sleeper effect that actually has an effect that actually works.
Stories of mythologies, like उसको जिस हिसाब से ढाल दो और उनको 10 बार पढ़ाओ तो उसको सच मान चुके हैं.
Absolutely. And that's why a lot of things are happening around, particularly in the countryside, in the village side. A lot of things are happening till now. Lot of brands, lot of products which are not even आज urban cities में दिखेंगे नहीं, लेकिन rural में फाड़ू दिख रहा है.
Yeah.
Okay, source attractiveness, similarity, familiarity, and likability. We know that. ठीक है? Our source similarity होना चाहिए. जैसे मैंने बोला, अरे हाँ, ये तो मेरे जैसा है. He's somebody like, then we feel he's a credible source. Okay. Familiarity, knowledge of the source through repeated or prolonged exposure. आप इतनी बार उस सोर्स को देख चुके कि आपको, अरे इसको देखते ही आपको familiar लगेगा, ये ब्रांड है, that product, the product of वो सेलिब्रिटी या that source actually has a familiarity. अब जैसे सेलिब्रिटी को देखो बोले ये तो ये प्रोडक्ट है, ठीक है? Then likability, of course, affection for the source resulting from physical appearance, behavior, and personal trait. That's the most important thing. इसलिए brand ambassadors आते हैं. When you like them, then only become, and that's the first thing that's being checked. When companies decide on making brand ambassadors, they check on likability. Okay, and then the rest of it. Okay. Top celebrity endorses, top male endorses, Tiger Woods. These are in Indian context, of course, these are not there. Lot of new ones. Aishwarya Rai will be possibly one. Shah Rukh Khan, Amitabh Bachchan will be some of them. Madhuri Dixit possibly are some top endorses. Advertising risk of using celebrities is important. The celebrity may overshadow the product being endorsed. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, बहुत बार celebrity is so strong that the product actually gets lost. The celebrity may be overexposed, reducing his or her credibility. क्या होता है? एक celebrity को हम लोग human being की तरह पहले तो देखते हैं. आज उसको अगर overexpose कर दोगे ना, ऐसा कुछ stunts दिखा दिए उसके साथ which is not the like of him, then you reduce the credibility of that celebrity. कभी-कभी हम होते हैं, एक मोटरसाइकिल दिखा रहा है, उसमें ऐसा स्टंट दिखा रहा है, एक न्यू मोटर बाइक का स्टंट दिखा रहे सेलिब्रिटी के साथ, थोड़ी देर बाद हम बोलते हैं यार ये क्या कर रहा है, अक्षय कुमार
पेप्सी के एड, सलमान खान.
हाँ, पेप्सी के एड्स हैं, फिर all those Leher, 7up के ads and all those these are crazy ads actually. And at times ठीक है, चलो एक आधा बार दिखा दिया, नेक्स्ट आप निकालिए, लेकिन क्या होता है धीरे धीरे उसका क्रेडिबिलिटी खराब, सेलिब्रिटी का क्रेडिबिलिटी खराब हो जाता है कि बस ये तो दिखावे के लिए आता है। And not only that celebrity's credibility, even that source's credibility, even the product's credibility gets lost. Actually, the target audience may not be receptive to the celebrity. Yeah, this is most important. The target audience do not accept the celebrity. Okay? The celebrity's behavior may pose a risk to the company. आज अगर celebrity endorsement इतना ही strong होता, then actually 7up जो पहाड़ों से कूद के ये कर रहा है, the people would have only thrived on 7up. ठीक है?
Sir,
कि
there's this
हाँ, बोलो।
question on soft drinks. सर
Yeah.
सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक जो प्रोडक्ट होती है वो क्या वैल्यू करती है, लाइक सोडा, पानी, दैट इज द मतलब चीज,
बस,
राइट?
yeah.
सो सर अभी आप समझा रहे थे कि कभी कभी ऐसे एड्स होते हैं कि हम प्रोडक्ट भूल जाते हैं, राइट? ये टेस्ट द थंडर हो गया या डर के आगे जीत है, यू नो, ऑल
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ।
व्हाट इज दैट एक्चुअली डिलीवर?
Nothing. Basically, emotional tickling of people, consumers. अब डर रहे हो तो जाके एक 7up पी लो, something like that. Okay. Taste the thunder. आज basically it's one, it's tickling the emotions, and second very important thing that they do is something like taste the thunder is they want to familiarize people with the fizz of thumbs up. Taste the thunder, thumbs up के साथ आया ना. So thumbs up का जो fizz है उसका what आज थंडर का जो आवाज होता है ना, थंडर का जो आवाज होता है, क्लाउड का थंडर का जो आवाज होता है, और उस फिज का जो आवाज है, they want to make it familiar. They want to relate that. Okay, and that's why the word thunder came in, and then you said taste the thunder, so you have to show what is thunder. So then you are showing that advertisement that there's a thunder and you are tasting the thunder. Okay, so sometimes they relate the attribute of the product with that word and then create an advertisement around it. Okay, लेकिन डर के आगे जीत है, that has nothing to do with the product. ठीक है, आज ऐसा नहीं है 7up पियोगे तो आप डर के आगे जीत है, क्या है, कभी हो ही नहीं सकता, right? So हाँ, ठीक है. That's why I say, that's why I say sometimes celebrities and their acts become so much. यहाँ पर जो word है ना, the celebrity may be overexposed, reducing his or her credibility. This is very, very practical. The target audience may not be receptive to the celebrity. The celebrity's behavior may pose a risk to the company. Okay, that's separate. His behavior, जैसे हम लोग ने अभी शाहरुख खान का बेटे का देखा कि he went for a drug and all that. So उसका behavior, उसका बेटे का behavior has actually become a risk to that celebrity himself, and of course that celebrity के लिए company itself. Okay, initially people thought that Byju's will stop showcasing Shah Rukh Khan, but किया नहीं उसने finally. Meaning, movement and endorsement, culture, endorsement and consumption. So object, person, context, celebrity say product, and product say consumer. And that's the reality. आप जितना भी criticize कर लो आदित्य, that's the reality. हम लोग used to, and the world is used to seeing celebrities इनको भगवान की तरह पूजा करना.
So I was telling you now, I have, like, we also were kids back in school, and I still remember back at 2014, 2015, when, adolescence is hitting up, people open that Pepsi ka bottle, na, like they are the kings, like boys and girls, they are the heroes.
Yeah. They are the heroes, actually. So object, person, and context all put together. There's a role of that celebrity, culture, and then comes the celebrity. Okay, the celebrity has to actually, relate to the object, the person, and the context, and then that becomes an endorsement for the product, and that product gets into the consumer's mind, actually, changes the behavior. Okay, so do it all women, anything and everything. A celebrity is celebrity. कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते आप इसका. Okay.
That influential power, sir.
Yeah. So that's what I said. तो पहले तो हम लोग ने उसी की बात की ना, their credibility, their power, and so on and so forth. right? We said, correct, credibility, attractiveness and power. ये तीन ही के ऊपर तो चलता है, starting from Amitabh Bachchan to whoever you talk about. ये तीन के पीछे तो चलता है दुनिया. So choose a celebrity endorser, match with audience. Okay. So when you are choosing, when a company is choosing a celebrity endorser, what does they do? What are the factors that they look? Okay, actually the first factor that they look are the trust, risk, familiarity and liability. कितना liability है, कितना familiarity है with the product, risk, trust, and then they match with the audience. They go to the audience and check with the audience that how much is the likability of person. Match with product, whether that. I'd think about. Do you think Unilever will go and take who is this name? Tell me any not good looking female artist in Bollywood.
Swara Bhaskar.
Swara Bhaskar. Okay. They will not take Swara Bhaskar for Lux, right? Lux का advertisement में कभी नहीं लेंगे वो, ठीक है? Possibly they will take Swara Bhaskar for a different detergent powder or something, but never for Lux. So they will match with the product. Then the image, of course, image of that particular man or a woman celebrity. Okay, even a spokesperson or a film artist or whoever. And then, of course, the cost is very important because this is getting a celebrity endorser is a costly affair. I will tell you way back in 2011 when I was working for Maggie and we got Amitabh Bachchan to endorse Maggie, and me and Mary Maggie was born that time. Those times Amitabh Bachchan took 11 crores. 11 crores. उसके पहले हम लोग ने the first celebrity that we got in Nestle ever in India was Madhuri Dixit from Rani Mukherjee for Munch.
Yeah.
You remember Munch? Huh? Okay, so that is the time I'm talking about 2007, 2008 when Rani Mukherjee took 7 crores. So they're pretty.
Before this 20-30 seconds का ad.
Absolutely. हाँ ठीक है, उसको बनाने के लिए शायद 3 दिन का शूटिंग करना पड़ा होगा. चलो अमिताभ बच्चन फिर भी Amitabh Bachchan is such a person that I will tell you one of the best human being I have seen, at least in front of the people, is because advertisement के scripts बनते हैं ना, जैसे movies के scripts बनते हैं, advertisement के script बनते हैं कि चलो ये 4 shootings होंगे, 4 के script हुए. Amitabh Bachchan would do from his own side. He just I would like to do 1 or 2 or 3 more shoot because I will do these scripts. ये खुद script बनाते थे और आके बोलते थे चलो इसको shoot करें. And so that way he was quite good. He would not look at time. Okay. So when you choose a celebrity, a lot of things, all these 8 factors are very, very important. And then, of course, आज के दिन में there is something more. आज के दिन में these celebrities also have their public relations team. So they go and work with these public relations team actually go and advertise these celebrities. उनको advertise करते हैं company के पास जाके ताकि companies buy them. So that's how you choose them. So how good are your so this is something which is very important. So Q score formula. This is very, very interesting. This is something which is done by every company's media team. Okay, so they what they do is they have a Q score for every celebrity, okay, or every celebrity in any contest. Okay, the percentage of those who say one of my favorite divided by the percentage who have well heard of him or her. So what you do is you go to public, you go to normal consumers in the market, and you do a survey and you give them a choice of 5 parameters. One is one of my favorite. Second is excellent, good, poor, and good, excellent, very good, poor, and one of my favorite. Okay, so the 5 parameters को consumers के सामने रखते थे, and they would people who will choose one of my favorite. Okay, and that is divided by the total number of who would say that I have just heard it. Basically, सारा सर्वे में अगर हम 500 लोगों के पास गए, कितने ने बोला he is one of my favorite. So that score will be given, called the Q score, and usually Q score more than 17. Usually बोलते हैं SKU score more than 17 is something supposed to be very healthy or something like very healthy नहीं, very good बोलते हैं, ठीक है?
Sir,
हाँ बोलो.
there's this question. अभी तो से we are the Gen Z generation, no? हमारे time पे Google आ गया and everything, and every time there's this survey that we have to answer, be it be YouTube or Google Forms, कुछ भी. Back in the days when actually things were not like that, how was actually surveys possible? Like, कैसे?
How was surveys
Survey
possible?
possible,
Surveys
conducting survey.
हमारे ज़माने में you're talking about your generation Google form में कर रहे हो, survey monkey में कर रहे हो. हमारे time पे तो ये था ही नहीं. So absolutely physical surveys. It was absolutely go to the market and do the surveys. Take your questionnaire, go to the market, stand in the front of the people in the normal market. तभी के दिन में supermarkets भी नहीं था. तो ये normal market में जाओ, खड़े हो जाओ, go to a consumer, check with him, take some time from him, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and have a very, very intelligently made questionnaire so that he can give you the absolute feedback or absolutely the right feedback for you in the least time. That's more important क्योंकि किसी के पास टाइम नहीं था कि आप कोई भी कंज्यूमर को जाके बोलोगे 10 मिनट टाइम दीजिए देगा. So उसके पास 3 मिनट टाइम है, उस 3 मिनट के अंदर the best questions possible to get what you want from them. So that's it. So that was reality. That was reality.
That would have been really hectic for the one
Hectic.
who's
It's hectic. Yeah. Market research once upon a time very even today market research is very people who do it in the field. Most of the good companies they do it. They don't send market research companies they don't send forms. It's not ethical there. We don't send forms. आज भी हम लोग form नहीं भेजते. Market research companies they send people to the market to get their data. So of course the most important thing is decorative models, likable models. Okay. Source power, perceived control, perceived concern, perceived scrutiny. Okay, so what does that mean? When you talk about the power of the source, whether they are compliant, okay, the consumers would judge them for the compliance. So perceived control. So what does that mean? That the source, basically the source has got a control over his audience. Okay, that's called the perceived control. Okay, they have a positive or negative effect on the audience. That is the control. Okay, they have concern for the audience. Okay, so Amitabh Bachchan has concern for the audience. That's called perceived concern. Amitabh Bachchan thinks about the good or bad about the audience. That's the perceived concern. And perceived scrutiny. Perceived scrutiny sources the ability to observe conformity is also important. That the source is ethical. The source, suppose you're talking about a celebrity, a sports person, or a film actor, his conformity. He's ethical. He's trustworthy. Okay, that's also being scrutinized by consumers or audience. Okay, so that's something needs to be kept in mind. So source power, of course, when you talk about trained test group sort of people, they have paid trustworthy people. They have the control. They have the they have been scrutinized for their conformity. They are trustworthy. They are ethical. Okay, and of course, when you talk about they have a good audience puller. They are audience pullers actually. Okay. So recall an order of presentation, beginning, middle, and end. So the whole communication, when you're communicating, when you're making an advertisement from the beginning to the end. Okay, so middle is the lower of it, the lower climax of it. Okay, one end is your when you talk about a presentation, when you are presenting or when you're communicating. So one end is is how much is your recall. So the beginning should be the recall. The people should remember the beginning, and people should remember the end. The middle is not so important. The middle is not so important. So you can see that recall and order of the presentation is the beginning and the end should be very, very important. Okay. So SkillQ, this is a brand of soya milk which uses open-ended message. How did you know you liked water before you tried it? There are different kind of messages. So out of this, one message is basically this. open-ended message. Okay. And why is this open-ended message important? Because open-ended message sometimes leaves people to think, and that's very. And the effectiveness depends on the target audience. Because target audience, the situation, okay, it all depends on that. If the target as an audience, as soya milk is not a normal milk, right? So people always think about this. So the audience is a thinking audience. Okay, so for them, this open-ended message which leads them to think possibly has an effect. Okay, so it says that more highly educated people may resent attempts by communicators to draw conclusions. Okay. So when you are showing this kind of message to very highly educated people, they do not want to see this kind of message because they do not want to think so much behind such just a pretty advertisement. Okay. However, this will always affect for people who sometimes evaluates the product. They think about products. Okay, for them, this kind of messages are important.
Sir,
Bola.
Abhi was talking about the soya milk thing, and I'm a huge I'm interested into the culinary world. I don't know cooking, but I like looking at all these things. Sir, can vegan food be a good product base
Can
in
vegan
India?
food be a good product in India? It is changing. See, the world is changing, and vegan also has the sleeper effect. एक ज़माने में people used to ignore. Like now, after a lot of persuasion, people have started understanding the worth of vegan. And people have started using it. People are looking for it, particularly the young generation. I know a lot of them who are actually talking vegan.
Tofu and soya milk.
Yeah. I'll tell you something like keto diet. आज से
Yeah,
10
keto.
या 10 साल पहले the keto diet was nothing on the agenda. Today I can tell you I know around at least 10 youngsters who are on keto diet.
So try it.
They will give me a 2 hours lecture on keto diet. So this is something like that. So vegan is possibly going to work, may not work, I don't know. However, I feel that be natural with your food. That's more important. Okay. Don't compromise just because you have to compromise. Because food is something unless you are facing some kind of like I am diabetic, I can't eat too much of sugary food. That's something different. But otherwise, if you ask me what kind of food you like, I said normal, any food. I'm a non-vegetarian, so any food, veg, non-veg, which is good to taste, I will have it. So okay. So think about different kinds of communications. The last one we said was open-ended messages. The next one is, two-sided messages. Think about this, how interesting it is. It tastes awful and it works. Okay, something like you, vegan food. Okay, it possibly tastes awful, but it works. Okay. An ad using a refutation appeal. Refutation is, so basically I look fat in this salad. Okay, and then what does that say?
Don't be ridiculous.
Is it ridiculous? Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be ridiculous. Okay, so basically, it is basically giving two messages which are interesting at the same time they are fighting with each other. Okay, so crazy. It's all about creativity of communication. Okay, आजकल के दिन में in fact creativity of communication is more important than creativity of design. Okay. Verbal versus visual use. Okay, so think about this visual use. Okay, this bubble. Okay, go on better. Okay, message appeals, choices appeal to the logical, rational mind of consumers, appeal to the feeling and emotions of consumers, and we see it every day around us. हम लोग जब भी कोई communication देखते हैं, particularly advertising communication देखते हैं, there are two sides of our brain. One talks about the logic, the other talks about the feelings and emotions, right? ठीक है, बोलते हैं ना एक heart से बोलता है, एक दिमाग से बोलता है. So all advertisements, all communications on this earth are around these two, appeal to both. Okay?
And so a good advertisement must be one जो कि दिल और दिमाग दोनों को कंट्रोल कर ले.
दोनों को कंट्रोल कर. आज very one of my most favorite advertisement is दाग अच्छे हैं. Unilever's के दाग अच्छे हैं of Surf Excel, I think for the last 10 years or more in different versions of दाग अच्छे हैं. और अभी तो होली तक पहुंच गया है, मुस्लिम्स के होली तक पहुंच गया है. ठीक है. I think it controls everything. It controls emotion, it controls the product information, it controls what you say, whatever you say. ठीक है. So that's what appeal is all about. It controls your emotion, it controls information, everything, logic, everything. Okay. So message of appeal options, comparative ads, fear appeal and humor appeal, very important thing. So comparative ads हम लोग देखते रहते हैं. एक प्रोडक्ट के साथ दूसरे प्रोडक्ट को कंपेयर करना, एक एट्रीब्यूट को दूसरे एट्रीब्यूट के साथ कंपेयर करना, स्पेशली यूजफुल फॉर न्यू ब्रांड्स. ठीक है. आज से 10 साल पहले ये बहुत होता था, द फाइट बिटवीन यूनिलीवर्स एंड पीएनजी. ओके, फाइट बिटवीन Tide and Surf Excel and so on and so forth. ठीक है.
Sir,
हाँ बोलो.
sir, jingle use करना is good or what?
म्यूजिकल कम्युनिकेशन हम लोग ने फर्स्ट, सेकंड या थर्ड स्लाइड में पढ़ा है म्यूजिकल कम्युनिकेशन.
But like not musical sir. जैसे कि आप जब दाग अच्छे बोलोगे ना, स्टार्टिंग में एक ब्लू कलर का पैकेट आ जाएगा आपके दिमाग में, Surf Excel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And like
So that creates a strong association with the consumer. If you remember, Britannia के जो ads होते थे ना, उस ad के just first में the ad would start with a music called ting ting ting.
Yeah, good day.
And good, वो जो ting 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 ना, it used to associate so well with the consumer. जैसे ही वो ting 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 सुनोगे, immediately आपके दिमाग में आ गया, अरे ये तो Britannia.
Zomato did the same thing, sir. That tune. पूरे time.
सबके साथ कुछ नहीं. They have started using musical tunes very well and even visuals very well. ठीक है. So in fact, दाग अच्छे हैं का initially अगर आप याद, I don't know whether you will get, you were very young those times. तो initially आए थे ना, that होली का, I mean जो रंग भी नहीं, माने कीचड़ के जो दाग फैले हुए हैं, that visual. ठीक है. In that child के body में कीचड़ का दाग फैला हुआ, that visual was so associative with consumers that people, whenever they used to see that, they used to associate the Surf Excel. That's and it takes a lot of research to do it. इतने जल्दी वो creative बनने जाते हैं, बहुत research करके वो लोग देखते हैं what does consumer like, consumer क्या चीज के साथ associate करता है, and that's how they are made. So we had a product called Everyday Dairy right now, milk powder. ठीक है. तो वो एक जमाने में almost 20 years back it used to come in tin. ठीक है. tin पैक में आता था और उसका एडवर्टाइजमेंट शुरू ही होता था, वो टिन का जो ऊपर का लिड है ना, वो ऐसा खुल के बैठ जाता था, टन टन टना आवाज होता था. ठीक है. एंड टीवी में वो दिखता था. पीपल यूज्ड टू एसोसिएट व्हेनेवर दैट लिड, कोई भी लिड ऐसा खुलता था ना किसी भी एडवर्टाइजमेंट, दे यूज्ड टू से ये एवरीडे से. So those are all visual and hearing associations, audio and visual associations. So comparative ad, fear appeals may stress physical danger to threat or to health, may identify social threats, can backfire if level of threat is too high. ये fear psychology पे काम करते हैं, लोगों को fear दिखाते हैं and then we associate that with our communication, and of course humor is the most common one. Okay, fear appeal and message acceptance. तो यहाँ पर देखो, acceptance of the message recommendation. So facilitating effect. Facilitating means it supports. ठीक है. Level of fear, this level, resulting non-monotonic curve and inhibiting effects. Inhibiting effects are important. That कभी-कभी fear इतना खराब काम करता है that people actually do not want to even touch that product. ठीक है. जैसे आज अगर मुझे आप वो मैं 7 अप का वो वाला माने व्हाट इज दैट, डर के आगे जीत है जो ऐड है ना, इट वाज सच अ माउंटेन ड्यू, वो मेरा इतना बेकार ऐड था मेरे लिए. पीपल यूज्ड टू लाइक इट, मैनी पीपल यूज्ड टू लाइक इट, बट इट हैड एन इनहिबिटिंग इफेक्ट ऑन. ठीक है. कभी वैसा होता नहीं है एंड दे यूज्ड टू शो इट इन सच अ डेंजरस मैनर. ठीक है. Humor appeal, of course, humor appeal
like Fair and Lovely ads. it's so ridiculous terming something as like fair as beautiful. It actually उनको प्रोडक्ट का नाम चेंज करना पड़ा, अभी ग्लो एंड लवली कर दिया है क्योंकि उसके पीछे
हाँ,
बहुत
हाँ,
दिक्कत हुआ.
I know. So humor appeal, pros and cons, aids attention and awareness. Humor appeal, I think, is one of the best one which I like. However, sometimes humor becomes so strong that people forget, ignore the product. Because humor is something which attracts people the most, and people would like to वो मजे लेता था उस advertisement से, लेकिन वो product पे कोई ध्यान नहीं देता. May aid retention of the message, creates a positive mood and enhances persuasion. May aid name and simple copy registration. May serve as a distractor, reducing counter argument. This is the last one, is very dangerous. May serve as a distractor, reducing counter argument. What does it mean? If my humor jada, it would have distracted the people from the actual information. And cons does not aid persuasion in general, may harm record and comprehension, may harm complex copy registration, does not aid source credibility, not effective in bringing about sales, may wear out faster than faster than non-humorous ads. क्योंकि कोई भी ह्यूमर ना देखना, इट्स नॉट अ लॉन्ग टर्म स्ट्रेटजी. कोई भी ह्यूमर इट फेड्स आउट. आप एक जोक आज सुनोगे ना, उसको 10 बार सुनोगे, आपको 10वीं बार हंसी नहीं आएगी. पहली बार हंसी आई, सेकंड टाइम हंसी, लेकिन 10वीं बार आपको हंसी नहीं आई. सो इट फेड्स आउट मच फास्टर. Okay. Personal versus non-personal channel. Of course, personal channel, flexible, powerful, real time. Personal is basically one-on-one sort of communication. Non-personal, of course, is anything else which is mass. So your ATL media, particularly outdoor hoardings, newspaper, radio, these are all non-personal, geared to large audience and static. Okay. Why is it static? Because they are not dynamic. You can't keep changing them, as you can do for personal selling or personal communication. Okay. So self-paced media, newspaper, magazines, direct mails, and internets. Okay, they are self-paced media versus externally paced media, radio, and television. Okay. Commercial clutter is a problem. Of course, it's a problem. So we all know about commercial clutter. आज के दिन में तो और भी problem है, because social media is very, very cluttered. Do you know? आप जानते हो, अनकॉन्शियसली आप अगर फेसबुक देखते हो, दिन में 3 घंटा फेसबुक पे रहते हो, अनकॉन्शियसली आप कितने एड्स के थ्रू से जाते हो? जस्ट गिव अ काउंट समडे. It will be more than 50 ads per day. Or just 3 hours you spend on a Facebook or Instagram. It's very high. So clutter is so high, it is very difficult for you to remember. That's why you have to be outstanding. You have to be absolutely clearly very, very creative about it, as so that people remember. Okay, so that's it for today. So tomorrow, I want to finish. Just let me see what I want to finish. Okay, creative strategy planning and media planning. ये तो कल finish करके we will be finishing integrated marketing communication. The next will be brand strategy planning. Or maybe 2 modules. Okay, so how is it? Interesting, good, not so good, boring?
It's good, sir. It's really good.
Sure, great. आप लोग तीनों जब भी आओगे ना एक साथ, I want to give you a case study on TikTok, so that you all 3 of you. I think you and Priyanshu are both together. You know each other very well, right?
Yeah, we are friends.
And what about Akshita? She is not.
Akshita is a junior. I know her as well.
But
Yeah.
if I give you a case study, all 3 of you can work together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll work. Chalo, great. See you tomorrow. Okay.